Welcome to episode 2 of Tok.Yo, written by MJJ Taylor. Before we begin, The Sovereign Game. Opportunity it out now on Amazon. You learned power. Now it's time to seize opportunity. The Sovereign Game. Opportunity is your playbook for turning ambition into action. It teaches you how to sell yourself, your ideas, and your brand. In any room, to any person, at any level. From mastering persuasion and creating urgency to building momentum and closing deals, this book reveals the mindset and methods used by those who rise fast and stay ahead. Sharp, tactical, and unapologetically practical. This is not about luck, it's about leverage, timing, and knowing how to open doors that others can't even find. Step into the game. Create your own chance. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more MJJ Taylor. Tok.Yo, Episode 2. Echoes in the Dark. This chapter splits between characters. Dante and Hana. Dante. Rain drummed on sheet metal like a fist on a locked door. The lower levels breathed in stacks and vents, hot air pushing old smells up from the pipes, oil, spice, and the sting of cut wires. Dante kept his hood low and his hands deep in his pockets so no one could see the tremor. The implant behind his left ear stuttered again. A small spark. A flash of white at the edge of his sight. Then the world snapped back, hard and clear. He was not used to fear. Hunger. Yes. Long nights. Yes. Fear was new in this way. Not a sharp spike, but a slow weight, like wet cloth dragging at his bones. He moved along the shadow side of the market lane, past stacks of bootleg chips and coils of cable that still held a charge. A woman in a plastic rain cape watched him pass. She did not speak. In Tok.Yo, you mind your own life if you want to keep it. Above him, a strip of ad screens showed a loop. New boots, a club he would never enter. Then his own face cut in, grainy and gray. Wanted. Subject 17. D 10,000C. Alive, double if dead. He looked away fast. If you stared, the camera stared back. The siren tone was different on nights like this. Not the thin whine that warned of a curfew raid, but the hard, flat note that meant a hunt. It bounced down the steel ribs of the level and came up under his spine. He counted his breaths to keep his legs from going to rubber. 4 inches, 4 out. Keep moving. A drone slid across the lane, as smooth as a knife on glass. Its beam cut through rain and steam. Dante stepped through a doorway without breaking stride. He let the door shut with a soft click, then pressed his ear to the metal. The beam passed on. The hum faded. For a second, he let his head touch the door and felt the cold coming through. Inside, the old maintenance hall smelled like rust and old soda syrup. Vending machines stood in a broken row, like dead men in bright coats. The floor was slick with a thin film of water that reflected the neon from the sign outside. He crossed fast, then slipped between 2 machines and found the service hatch. The seal was sticky. He pried it with a flat bar he kept in his boot, felt the pop, and lifted. The shaft beyond was narrow and dark. He slid in feet first and pulled the hatch down after him until it kissed shut. For a long breath, he lay still and listened to his own blood press in his ears. Then he started to crawl. The air in the shaft was warm and tasted of dust. The metal ribs were close, and the noise of the city turned to a dull pulse, like a heart in another room. He used his elbows and knees to pull himself along, counting panels in the dark. 12. 13. 14. The map in his head said there was a cross run at 22 that opened above the monorail line. If he reached that, he could ride the top of the tunnel to another district. If the implant did not flare and give him away. At panel 18, the implant kicked again. His vision doubled. The shaft stretched out like chewing gum. He clenched his teeth until the wave passed. When it did, he found a thought he had not let himself think since the rooftop. The man's head snapping back, the wet sound, the way the guards did not even blink. He shoved the thought away. 4 in, 4 out. Crawl. At panel 22, he found the cross run by touch. He slid left and felt cold air on his face. It was like opening a window in a burning room. He breathed slow and let the dark cool him. The sound of trains came up from below, a far-off rush that rolled through his ribs. He let his toes find the lip of the grate and eased it up just enough to look. The monorail tunnel ran like a steel river under him. White lights sliced past in long lines. Every time a train came, pressure thumped in the shaft and pushed damp air up his sleeves. Across the tunnel, an inspection ledge dotted the wall like teeth. If he could drop to the ledge, he could walk the line and stay off the street cams for a while. He slid the grate back, braced, and lowered himself until his boots hung in space. The ledge was a long reach down and a short reach across. He swung once, twice, and let go. His fingers bit steel. His shoulders screamed. He hauled his weight in and lay flat, cheek to cold metal, breath tearing out of him in fog. He did not move until the pain came down from a burn to a throb. Then he crawled. One hand, one knee. Small, quiet moves. Every few meters, a small camera eye blinked red in the wall. He kept his hood low and his face turned. The implant hissed like a match head, then went silent again. Above him, through concrete and cable, the city kept on like a machine with no off switch. He pictured it in layers. The bright clubs with glass floors, the mid-level markets with their screens and their scams, the lower warrens where you could buy a kidney in a foam cooler. He had never seen the top. He'd seen it on screens, towers like knives, bridges with gardens, the sky the color of new chrome. He could not imagine what rain sounded like up there. Maybe they had music that covered it. He moved past a service door with chipped paint and a stenciled code. DL12 Gate 7. He tried the handle. Locked! He made a note in his head. Gates meant ladders. Ladders meant options. He worked on until the wall curved and the ledge widened into a small bay with a rusted bench for workers. A dead lamp hung crooked above it. He slid under the bench and curled on his side. For a few minutes only, he told himself. Rest, then move. His eyes closed. The sound of the train sank into him and became a kind of tide. He did not mean to sleep. He slept anyway. Hana. The wall of screens threw cold light on Hana's face. 1,000 windows. 1,000 small truths at once. She could pick out a fight 3 levels over. A fire in a kitchen vent. A girl in a yellow coat chasing a plastic bag down a corridor slick with rain. The system flagged faces and shapes and colors without asking her how she felt about any of it. The system never asked. Her left eye burned. She rubbed it with the heel of her hand and blinked hard until the blur tightened into edges again. The digital directive pulsed red in the upper corner of the center screen. Subject 17. D priority. Capture. Failure equals consequence. She did not need the last line to know what it meant. The city had a rule for people like her. Good work is routine, bad work is personal. She rolled the last 6 hours of feeds again and watched the boys show up like a bad echo. 0142, rooftop. 145, stairwell. 214, a blur under a freight carriage. 215, gone. The grid tagged and then lost him like a coin dropped in a drain. It was not supposed to do that. She hooked a finger under her earpiece and keyed the lower-level patrols. Unit 7. 7. Walk me through your sweep. District 12. North spoke, south spine, feeder alleys. No eyes on subject. Drone 4 caught a possible dash. Possible is nothing. Say where. Maintenance lane on Kuro Row. The drone tracked heat, then lost it. Rain interference or a shield. Hana sat up. Shield. From who? Unknown. Could be a dead zone in the cams. There were no dead zones. Not on the map she had, but maps did not have to tell the truth to get you killed. Send me Drone 4's raw stream, Hana said. The feed popped into a lower tile. She scrubbed it back and forth with her thumb, watching the flicker of heat, the way it slid under one angle and vanished under another. A shield, then. Not strong, not system grade, but not nothing. Her screen pinged with a new message. Dymo control. Status request. She almost did not answer. She answered anyway. Dante slipped the district cameras between 214 and 217, she said. She used the name, not the code. It was a small choice. Small choices make habits. I want access to your hunter's trail. A pause. The line filled with quiet breath and a hum like a low wire. Cade's trail is held, the voice said. Smooth as glass. Not a person you could push. He reports progress. Progress without a live pin is a story, Hana said. Share the raw. Another pause, longer. Then a kernel packet slid into her queue. She clicked it open. A cold map unfolded, all gray and white lines with no street names, just nodes and vectors. Cade's path traced it in bright thread, a steady, patient walk from tower to tunnel to market to rail. She felt the back of her neck go tight. This was not a patrol route, it was a hunt. Thank you, she said, and meant for once. The Dymo voice said nothing more, and cut the line. Hana zoomed the map with 2 fingers and hung it over the district feed. Paths stacked on paths. Cade's thread lined up with 3 dead cameras and 1 drone lost to rain. The gaps were not random. She tapped the desk. Command to logistics, she said. Who laid the last camera net in DL-12? 2 months ago, logistics said. Upgrade cycle. Why? I want names. You want names? I want names. A list slid into her queue. Hana scanned it and felt a shape rise under the words. The contractor's owner had a shell account run through a front 3 levels up. An old trick, clean enough to use, dirty enough to move money fast. Someone had bought daylight in the dark. She stood and stretched her back. The city outside the glass was a smear of neon and rain. The tower shook a little when the high trains passed. Her own home level was lower than this, down below the clouds and the glass bridges and the parties in the sky. Some nights she went home to a quiet room, 2 blocks from a school she never had time to see in daylight. Most nights, she did not go home. The directive pulsed again. Failure equals consequence. It was not a threat she could point at. It was a promise they would keep. She keyed a private line. It was not in her job list to do this. It was not in anyone's job list to do this. Sora, she said. A voice picked up after 2 rings. Warm. Wary. You haven't called in a year, Hana. I need your back channels, Hana said. Lower layers. People who talk to the hooks in the walls. Sora exhaled. You're still in blue, she said. Your badge makes rats run. I'm not wearing it, Hana said. You always wear it. Today I do not. A beat. Rain on glass. Train in the bones of the tower. What do you want? A rumor, Hana said. Boy. 17. He saw something no one should see. He ran. If someone shielded 3 cameras for him, who do I owe a favor to? You owe me a favor to start. That's true. Sora's laugh was short and soft. I'll ask. Don't call this line again. I'll find you. The line clicked out. Hana let her shoulders drop a fraction. The screens kept their motion. Nothing in the room had changed but the shape of the hunt in her head. She pulled Cade's path up again and traced the last segment with her thumb. The hunter had moved toward the rail. So would the prey. She pinged Unit 7. Shift the sweep to the monorail spine, she said. Keep your drones high, not low. He'll be in walls, not halls. And turn off the loud siren in DL-12. Turn off? Command? The directive? It's a hunt, not a parade. The noise is pushing him where the cameras aren't. Cut it and make him think we're gone. A small pause. Then, yes, Command! Hana did not like telling lies to boys who were just trying to live, but she liked getting them killed for the wrong reason even less. Dante. When he woke, he did not know where he was. The cold bench had printed lines on his cheek. The sounds he heard were from a deep place. The rush of trains and the drip of old water. Then light slid white across the bay, and he remembered the ledge, the grate, the long crawl. He lay very still and listened. The siren was gone. Only the city's endless hum remained. The lack of sound felt like a trap that had not been sprung yet. He rolled to his knees and winced as his shoulder answered with a low, stubborn pain. He stretched the arm slow and felt the knots ease. Hunger bit next. Sharp, mean. He took a packet from his coat. Soy paste. Stale. And squeezed it into his mouth. It tasted like salt and glue. It would keep his hands from shaking, and that was all a meal had to do tonight. The implant did not spark for a full minute. Then it did, quick and bright, and he saw a color that did not exist, then forgot it at once. He pressed his fingers flat against the skin, below the chip, like pressure could make it behave. The truth was this. He had no idea what to do with it. Some kids knew their gear like a second tongue. He had never had good gear. He had had just enough to pass. Tonight, he would take even less if it kept him alive. He rose into a crouch and peered down the ledge. The inspection bay ran out to a service door 20 meters forward. DL-12. Gate 9. He knew gates meant ladders. He knew ladders meant up or down. Up was cameras and guards and glass eyes that clicked when they moved. Down was heat, rot, and holes in the grid you could fall through and never climb out. He made the choice fast, so he would not think too much. Up. The door was locked with a simple heavy throw. He worked it with the flat bar, and the bar bent. He hissed a swear word between his teeth and bent it back with both hands. The second try, the throw gave with a groan, and the door slid a palm's width. He slid his shoulder into that gap and pushed. The metal moved like a tired man. It opened just enough for him to slip. The ladder was a spine of steel that punched up through the concrete. He gripped and climbed. His shoulder burned. He counted rungs to keep from stopping. 38, 42, 53. At 60, the ladder hit another door. This one had a small square of thick glass wired into it. He put his eye to the glass and saw a service corridor lit with old strip lights that buzzed. No people, no cameras in his line of sight. But cameras did not always sit where you could see. He tried the handle. It opened on a sigh. He slipped through, pulled it soft behind him, and stayed still. The corridor smelled like old cleaner and damp paper. He walked on the balls of his feet to keep the rubber from squeaking. At the first corner, he paused. A line of posters was pasted to the wall. Some old, some new. 3 of them had the same image, triangle with an eye at the center, a halo of lines around it like cheap sun. Under the eye, a line of small text. He sees, he saves. His stomach turned. He had seen the eye on the rooftop, stamped in steel, on the gun that killed the man. He looked away and moved on. A small door marked janitorial was cracked open. He slid in and found a closet with mops and a sink and a faded shirt on a hook. It smelled like lemon and mold. He took the shirt and pulled it over his own. It hung big and gray. It made him look like no one at all, which was good. He put a cap on his head and kept his hood down now. If a camera saw a face in a cap and a gray shirt, it would see a cleaner and not a boy. He found stairs that led up to another corridor with louder lights and worse paint. A fan clacked somewhere out of sight. He kept moving until the wall opened on a small platform that looked down into a market 2 levels above the one he had left. Voices rose and fell like waves. The smell changed from rust to garlic, from damp to sweat and fry oil. He felt the pull in his chest that always came when a place felt almost normal. He pushed it down. He scanned the open floor for guards, for drones, for the hard lines of a dymo head and a mask. He saw none. The lack made his neck tighten. He chose a path with cover, a row of stalls, then a stack of crates, then a narrow lane behind a dumpling stand, and moved. "Hey, kid," a voice said, low. He froze. The voice came from a shadow behind the crates. A man leaned there, small, with a face like a knife that had been used too long and not sharpened. He wore a plastic apron and smelled like old water. "You look like trouble," the man said, not unkind, like he was saying the weather was wet. He did not step closer. "You hungry?" Dante did not answer. He shifted his weight so he could run. The man lifted his hands, slow and empty. "Relax. I'm not selling you to anyone. Not tonight." He looked up and down the lane. "But you're being stupid." "How?" Dante said. "You're walking straight. Men who walk straight when the city is quiet have not learned. Come." The man jerked his chin. 2 minutes. Then I never saw you." Dante should have kept walking. He went anyway. The man lifted a lid off a pot on a small burner, and steam rose with garlic and soy. He ladled 2 dumplings into a cup and thrust it over. "Eat with your head turned," he said. "There's a lens behind the menu sign." Dante took the cup, kept his face turned, and ate. The dumplings were hot and soft and almost sweet with cabbage. Heat went through him in a clean line, and his hands stopped shaking. "Thank you," he said. The man watched the lane. "You've got a bad chip," he said. "I can hear it in the way you blink." Dante almost laughed. "I can feel it in my bones," he said. "You should find a wall doctor," the man said. "But you won't, because you can't pay and your face is in the air, so you will keep moving until the city makes you stop." "Do you know anyone who sells time?" Dante asked. He did not know why he asked. It slipped out. The man considered that. "Nobody sells time," he said, "but some sell new names. If you keep your head, you might live long enough to buy one." A drone hum came then, faint but close. The man pushed the cup back into Dante's hands as if he had just passed a meal to a customer and lifted his chin toward the far lane. "Go," he said. "Use the drain corridor. It stinks like a dead pipe. The city does not like to look there." Dante picked up a rag from the counter and wiped his mouth like a cleaner-off shift, then moved. He did not run. He walked with the slow swing of a man who had carried water all day. At the end of the lane, he slipped through a rubber curtain into a tight hall with a low ceiling. The smell hit hard and mean. He breathed through his mouth and kept going. Behind him, the drone hum passed and did not pause. He did not look back. Hana. Sora found her in less than an hour. Not with a call. With a file drop that blinked once in the corner of Hana's screen like a firefly. She opened it and found a map of the lower market, not the clean one from the city grid, but the kind with hand marks and notes in strange short words. Rat Hall, Dead Pipe, Blue Door. A thin arrow ran from Rat Hall to Dead Pipe and ended in a little circle drawn in jittery stylus lines. Under the circle, one word. Breathe. Hana smiled in spite of herself. Sora had always loved a small joke. She overlaid the hand map onto the official one and saw the lane behind the dumpling stall line up with the drain corridor the city used when it wanted to forget smells had power. She widened the lens and watched the drone path skim past without slowing. The boy made the right move. Or someone nudged him. She typed Favor Ode into a square on her private board and put Sora's name next to it. Then she flagged Kuroro Stall 77 and pulled the last 6 hours of interior feed from the kitchen cam. The picture was bad, steam and grit and blown pixels. But she caught 2 seconds of a boy in a gray shirt and a cap, head turned, eating with fast hands like a dog guarding its bowl. She paused and looked close. His face was a smear of heat. Still, the line of the jaw was the same as the rooftop still. She let the feed run and saw him move off at a neat pace that did not draw eyes. Someone had taught him that walk. Maybe the city. Maybe a person. She marked the lane with a soft tag and did not share that tag with Dymo Control. A message popped in the system channel. Cade. Entering DL-12 rail spine. No other words, no request, no need. He was doing what he was made for. She tried to imagine the inside of his head and failed. She tried to imagine the inside of the Emperor's head and stopped herself like she had stopped herself when she was 8 and stared too long at the sun. Her desk shook as a high train cut the tower. She pushed back her chair and stood. The room smelled faintly of lemon and cold glass. She liked lemon. It reminded her of a day when the city was new to her and she still believed maps were honest things. She took her badge off the lanyard and slid it into her inner pocket. The lift took her down 30 floors in a long sigh. The lower lobby was empty, but for a guard with a big book, he did not read. She nodded once and kept walking. On the street level, the rain had picked up, hard and thin. It made needles out of light. Hana pulled her hood up and headed toward Kuro Row. She did not ping the patrols to say she was moving. She did not ping Dymo Control. The less noise around the boy, the better. Noise made people brave and stupid. She reached the market and did a slow loop with the eye of a shopper who did not have a lot to spend. Stalls flashed bright candies and cheap chips and shirts with jokes in bad print. She bought a dumpling from stall 77 and ate it with her left hand so her right could stay free. The man behind the pot had the tired look of someone who had made peace with small rules and small risks. "Good?" he said, the same way he would speak to anyone. "Hot," she said. "Too much garlic." He smiled with just his mouth. "No such thing." She leaned in as if to see the bottom of the pot. "Did you see a boy?" she said. "Gray shirt." Chapter. Bad chip. The man's eyes did not change. He lifted a ladle and set it down. "You like garlic. You don't like garlic," he said. "I cook both ways." "I can make trouble," Hana said, light, like she was making a joke. "I can also remove trouble." "The city makes trouble," the man said. "You're only a hand." She liked him. She did not have time to like him. "If he dies in the wrong way," she said, "they will look hard at this row. They will pull up tiles and stand on necks. They will ask who knew and who fed. Do you want that?" The man's jaw moved, a small grind. "I want to close my stall at the end of the night," he said. "Then we want the same thing," she said, and set a small sealed credit chip on the counter. Not a bribe. A sign. He did not look at it. After a few breaths, he said, "Dead Pipe Lane. Rat Hall." He walked with the slow step. He kept his eyes on the steam. "Who is he?" "Someone who saw a thing and lived," Hana said. The man huffed. "That is most of us," he said, and flicked his eyes toward the far lane. "Do not come back with men." "I won't," she said, and meant I'll try. She moved into the tight hall. The smell was what the note promised. She breathed through her mouth and followed the drip. Halfway down, a door marked service sat with a new scrape on the throw. She crouched and touched the metal. It was warm where a hand had worked it hard not long ago. She checked the corners for lenses, then slipped through. A ladder punched up into the dark. She climbed. Her boots clicked like teeth. At the top, a corridor. Old light, bad paint, the whisper of a fan. On the wall, posters with an eye in a triangle and words that made her stomach feel cold. He sees. He saves. She had seen the eye stamped in steel too. Not in a rooftop scene. In a file. 10 years old. A purge no one was meant to remember. She put her hand on the paper until the ink smudged her palm, then wiped it on her coat. Down the hall, the air moved with a slow, wet breath from a rubber curtain. She stepped through. The market opened below her again from a higher angle. She stood very still and let her ears do work. Her eyes could not. Voices. Pans. The distant hum of a drone, moving careful as a cat now that the loud siren was gone. Good. Better for her. Worse for the boy, maybe. but better for her. Her earpiece crackled. Unit 7. Command. Hunter on rail spine calls a lock. She did not want to answer. She did. Send me the lock, she said. A blue dot blinked alive on the gray map. DL12, Gate 9. She was 2 corridors and a ladder away. She walked, not fast, enough to make time without making sound. At the service door, she put her ear to the metal. The rail's breath came through. She cracked the door and slid into the cool. The ledge stretched narrow and wet. Far down, she saw a small bay with a rusted bench and a shape on the floor that might be a man and might be a trick of the lights. She moved low. The train's wind tugged at her hood. Her earpiece clicked again. Cade. Approaching Gate 9. Another voice would have said, we. Cade did not do we. Hana sped up. She did not run. The ledge did not allow running without turning men into stories told in bars. At the bay, the shape resolved. The bench was empty now. The floor had a smear where a body had lain in damp dust. Next to it, a small bent bar of metal with skin oil still on it. He had gone up. She turned to the door and saw the smear of a palm print she could feel in her own hand. Unit 7, she whispered. Pull back from the rail mouth, all of you. Do not crowd the ledge. Command. The hunter. The hunter is not your friend, she said, sharper than she meant. Let him have his room. Silence. Then a clipped, copy. She pressed her palm to the door and felt the cold sink into her skin. Somewhere above, somewhere near, the boy in the gray shirt was choosing a path, and the man with the steel jaw was choosing a way to end it. She could not hold both truths in her hands and still do her job the way the manual said to do it. She did not call Daimo control. She did not share the smudge on the door, or the bent bar, or the soft heat still in the air. She kept those things like small coins. She would spend them only if the price was right. Dante. He reached a junction where the corridor split. Left was light and the sound of people. Right was dark and the sound of water ticking like a clock. He went right without letting himself think why. The dark held him like a hand. The floor sloped up, then leveled, then sloped up again. His legs ached. His shoulder had become a dull box of pain he carried under his shirt. The cap itched. He kept it on. At the end of the hall he found a door with a small view square. He looked through and saw a platform with a row of maintenance carts, and beyond them, a wall of glass that looked out onto a narrow street sluiced with rain. The street had lamps that gave off a low, warm light. No drones, no guards he could see. He could see the glow of a sign around a corner. SOUP in cheap red letters. The world looked almost normal in that way that meant it was not. He eased the door open and stepped onto the platform. The carts were plastic and sad. He pushed one so it rolled and rattled down the edge. The sound felt like a person coughs in a church. He walked toward the glass and stopped when he saw his face in it. The gray shirt made him nobody. The cap made him smaller. His eyes still told the truth, and he did not like what they said. He looked at the rain in the soup sign and let himself wish for a second that he could sit in a warm room and hold a bowl and not think about anything. The wish passed. Wishes were like candy wrappers. They made noise and did nothing. On the far side of the platform, a set of stairs dropped to the street. He put his hand on the rail. It was slick and cold. He started down. Halfway, the implant flared. Not a small spark. A white sheet. His knees buckled and he caught the rail with both hands. The world slid like it was on oil and came to a stop in a new place where the colors were wrong. He heard a tone high and thin and felt like someone had said his name just outside his ear. Dante. It was not a voice he knew. It was not a voice in the air. It was inside. Dante. His heart punched hard once. He looked over his shoulder and saw no one. He looked up and saw the bare bulb swinging from the ceiling as if a wind had come and gone. Who? He started. then shut his mouth so hard his teeth clicked. He put his hand flat against the wall and rode the wave until it waned. When the world came back to true size, he heard something else. Footsteps on steel. Not his. Not far. He went still. The steps were slow, patient. They sounded like a man who did not have to hurry because the end of the story was written and he had read it. Dante lifted his feet soft and fast and moved down the last stairs to the street. Rain hit his face like pins. He went under the soup sign and past a door with fog on the glass. He wanted to go in and hide where the smell was good and the noise would cover his breath. He kept going. He cut left into a narrow cut between two buildings, a slit with trash bins, and a light that buzzed like a trapped fly. The cut led to a fence and a drop. He looked down. 2 meters. A pile of wet boxes. A bad landing. He swung his legs over the fence and dropped anyway. Pain shot up through his legs. He bit the inside of his cheek and tasted blood. He rolled and came up into a crouch, then ran low toward the shadows under a bridge. The footsteps on the stairs above did not speed up. They did not need to. He slid under the bridge into a crawl space that smelled like old rain and dead leaves. He put his back to the stone and listened. The rain on the street made a steady sheet of sound. His own breath tried to take up too much space inside his head. He made it smaller. Boots on wet stone. A soft scrape at the edge of the bridge. A pause. He stared at the dark in front of him until stars showed behind his eyes. He did not move. He did not think, move. He became a part of the shadow that had chosen him when he stepped under the bridge. After a long minute, the boots moved on. Not away. Along. The man above him was drawing a circle, not a line. Dante let the air out of his lungs inch by inch. He turned his head and saw, at the far end of the crawl, a round iron plate with bolts. A storm drain. He slid on his belly, got his fingers under a lip, slick with slime, and pulled. The plate did not want to move. He pulled again and felt something give in his side. A low hurt. He pulled a third time and the plate lifted just enough to slip a hand under. He pushed with that hand while he pulled with the other and got the plate to tilt and fall with a dull, wet clank. Black air rose from the drain. It smelled like time. He did not have a light. He lowered his legs in and felt rungs. He slid into the dark and let the plate fall back into place above him with his palm still on it to make the noise small. Below, the rungs went down farther than he liked. He climbed until the sound of the street was a rumor and the dark turned to a kind of gray. Water talked to itself somewhere out of sight. He stepped off onto a narrow ledge and found a passage that felt like the inside of a throat. He moved slow, one hand on the wall, until a faint glow showed at a bend, and the passage opened into a round chamber with a hole in the roof where rain fell like strings. On the far side of the chamber, 3 kids sat on crates, knees up, faces sharp. Their eyes came up at once. One of them held a coil knife in a fist. "You're lost," the one with the knife said. Not a question. Dante kept his hands where they could see them. "I'm tired," he said. "That's not a map," the kid said. "I need to pass," Dante said. "I don't want your seat." "You want our hole," the smallest one said, thin and bright like a wire. "I want to not die," Dante said. The one with the knife tipped her head. "Fair," she said. "Everyone wants that." The smallest one squinted. "You're the boy on the loop." "No," Dante said. "Yes," the smallest one said, pleased to have a truth in his mouth. 10,000. The one with the knife elbowed him without looking away from Dante. "We don't sell people," she said. "We sell stories." "I don't have a good one," Dante said. "Everyone has a good one," she said. "You can't live here without paying in words." Dante let his head touch the wall for a second. He did not have a story he liked. He had a thing he had seen. He did not want to say it. He saw the eye in the triangle again when he tried. He forced his mind to move like a hand on a stiff wheel. "I saw a man die," he said. and the men who killed him did not care the sky was watching. The smallest one's mouth went small in a little O. Old story, the knife girl said. City loves it. Why should we love it too? Because I don't, Dante said, and was surprised to hear his voice crack. He swallowed and felt the shape of the truth slide into place. I don't. I want it to stop living in my head. The girl with the knife looked at him for a long breath, like she was weighing a fruit in her hand. Then she lowered the blade a fraction and flicked her eyes toward a tunnel mouth that led deeper. Left fork has a pipe that hums, she said. Follow it until the hum splits. Take the quieter hum. If you take the loud one, you'll end up under a guardhouse and your night will be over. You understand me? I understand you, Dante said. You didn't hear it from us, she said. I didn't, he said. The smallest one whispered as he passed, excited and scared. We saw a ghost, he said. He didn't see us. Dante wanted to say, I see you. He kept moving. The quiet hum found him like a path. Hana. Her boots left small moons of water on the service stairs. She moved to the junction where the corridor split and breathed in the scent that rose off the right-hand dark. Wet stone, old iron, a hint of the same lemon that clung to her coat. She put her hand on the wall. The paint was tacky with damp. Her earpiece clicked in its soft official way. Dymo control. Cade reports a new vector. Possible contact near DL-12 market. Advise civilians to clear aisles. No advisories, Hana said, low, not keying the line. The city did not need more fear tonight. It had enough for every mouth. She followed the slope up and then down, counting steps the way she had been taught to do when she was young and new and hungry for rules to keep her straight. At the service door with the square of thick glass, she looked through and saw the platform and the carts and the glass pane slick with outside rain. A smear on the glass at shoulder height said someone had leaned there to look out and want something they couldn't have. She stepped onto the platform and saw the cap's faint circle on the floor where a wet head had tipped back. She looked at the soup sign glowing around the bend and felt the stupid ache in her chest she had trained not to feel. It was hard to train out what you had been born with. Footsteps on steel, soft and even, reached her from somewhere below. She crouched at the top of the stairs and lifted her palm in an old habit to feel air and sound. The vibration came up her bones like a note. She could wait and see the hunter. She could move and find the boy. She could call for a net and let the city eat both. She moved. Down the stairs, into the rain, under the bridge, into the crawl. The smell hit her like a slap. She cursed softly and kept going. At the far end, her hand found the edge of a plate that rocked just a hair under her fingers. It had moved. She pushed and felt it stick, then give. The dark below rose up wet and old. She left the plate as she found it so the circle would look closed. She went down into the city's throat. Water talked. A faint, steady hum came from somewhere to her left, and a hum like it but softer came from her right. She turned right. Far ahead, she caught a thread of motion. Not light, not sound, the absence of both. She thought of maps and rules and the last line of the directive that pulsed on her screen. Failure equals consequence. She chose to fail a little, in a way the system could not parse. Dante, she said into the wet stone, into the hum, into the old air. Not loud, not soft, exactly the size of a choice. If you can hear me, you have 2 left turns before the pipe with the red band. Take the second. The red band leads to guards. Her voice folded into the drain and became a part of it. She thought of the man at the stall and the kids who made homes in holes and the boy who had eaten with his head turned. She did not know if the city would punish her for this. She did not know if the boy would make it to the turn. Up above, the rain kept making needles out of light. Somewhere close, Cade's slow steps reached the mouth of the crawl. Hana turned and went toward the market, toward the light and the noise and the lie of normal. She would be there when the story came back up from the dark. One way or another.